State lawmakers are moving to protect your religious freedom. This is the CitizenLink Report. I'm Stuart Shepard, along with my friend and colleague, Tom Minnery, who also happens to be our president. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Stuart.
We haven't seen you for a while. You've been on the road a lot.
Yeah.
Let's talk about these bills that are being talked about in quite a few state houses around the country. They're bills to protect religious freedom. They're often called Religious Freedom Restoration Acts or amendments. Now, what they seem to do is either to affirm or to protect the rights that should be already protected in the First Amendment. Why are they necessary? What's going on?
Yeah, it's very important that we increase the protections for religious liberty in state law, because the Supreme Court got into things years and years ago and messed things up, and the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, freedom of religion, no longer applies as it once did to state law, although it applies to federal law, because the Congress fixed the meddling of the Supreme Court at the federal level, but not at the state law. So it's confusing when government gets into these things.
So what kind of language do we find in these? What do they affirm? What do they protect?
Here's what's necessary. State law must say that government cannot impede one's religious liberty unless it has a compelling interest to do so. And if it has a compelling interest to do so, it must get involved in the least restrictive manner possible. And those are simple precepts, but it's a hard fight.
And those are very legal terms that have very specific meaning. They're words of art, as they say in the law business. That is, it sets a very high bar for government. You really have to prove your case that you need to get involved here. But it also says if you do prove that, then you have to use a very gentle solution. You can't just knock things aside and clear the decks.
Well, that's right. This comes up in a lot of contexts from state to state all the time. For example, a florist in Washington State served the gay community in her area for many years for many reasons. But when a gay couple came in and said, "Would you prepare flowers for our wedding," which was then legal, Baron L. Stutzman said, "I cannot do that because I do not believe in that kind of wedding. So please excuse me, here are other florists who would help you. Let's remain friends." And indeed, they remained friends. But the state of Washington came in and said, "No, no, you must go out of business if you do not serve these particular customers." So that's how government can meddle into one's freedom of religion.
Now, I've been amused. In Indiana, there's one of these making its way through the legislature even as we speak. It's doing fairly well. One of the key opponents of the Religious Freedom Act there, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, is a group called Freedom Indiana. So freedom for us, but not for you.
Yeah, and this has wide application even beyond the controversies over same-sex marriage. And here's one of them that applies to Indiana. Indiana has a lot of Amish people. Amish people drive in buggies. Buggies now have those fluorescent orange and red triangles on the back warning motorists that here's a slow-moving vehicle coming up. Well, that works in Indiana. It doesn't work so well everywhere else because in Minnesota, the Amish up there objected. All right, the state came in and said, "We have a compelling interest in letting everybody know there's a slow-moving vehicle ahead, a buggy," and so they used a less restrictive means. The Amish agreed to put silver reflective tape on the back of their buggies and lanterns. That satisfied the government's interests, and the Amish could tolerate that. So that's how these things work themselves out in court. Now, these state religious liberty laws that we've been pushing so hard around the country that need to be passed, they don't guarantee anything. They just guarantee your ability to make your case in court and see if you can get the court to agree with you that the state, when it wants to impinge upon your religious liberty, is doing so in an overwhelming, burdensome manner that's not appropriate.
So they don't guarantee you a win, they just say you get to make your case for religious freedom in that instance. Now, give us the lay of the land. How many states have already passed versions of these and how many are in play?
That's a good question. There are 19 states that already have these laws in place, and there are a handful of other states which have interpreted their state constitutions as meaning these laws are in effect, even though statutory law does not clearly so specify. And the hard case for the other side to make, particularly the gay activists, is that This will return us to the era of Jim Crow laws, when there is segregation at lunch counters. The response is these laws have been in effect in many states for many years, protecting people under state law, and there are such protections under federal law. What's the difference between state and federal law? If someone can get a case into federal law, you have a federal court, you've got a better chance to win. But if you get stuck in state court, in a state that does not have such a protection, you have a harder time.
All right. Now, we want our supporters to know, our ministry friends to know, that CitizenLink has been actively involved in trying to get these passed around the country.
We have. We have been active in a number of states this legislative season, meaning January, February, and now into March. And without the support of our CitizenLink constituents, we could not maintain the pressure on politicians where we need to. We've been fighting especially hard now in the state of Indiana to pass a religious liberty bill, and I'm happy to say we're making progress. So we may have a victory to report.
And that's in the form of coordinating phone calls, radio ads, that kind of thing?
Yes, a radio ad is running, and we are letting people know that now is the time to contact your legislator. And by the way, we'll connect you right away, right now, with your legislator if you would want to state your case. And so many times people are willing to do that when they simply know what's going on.
Very helpful. Tom, thanks for your input on this. Very insightful.
You're welcome.
And thank you for watching. We always appreciate hearing from you. You may write to us at mail@citizenlink.com. Take a moment to pray for the states that are currently considering these religious freedom amendments, or religious freedom legislation. Indiana in particular is about to go to a vote in the House there. It just came out of a committee. As we speak, you'll want to check and see what the latest is. But pray for lawmakers around the country as they consider these, that they'll see the wisdom of the founders in protecting the free exercise of religion in this country. And remember to stand tall and be heard.